Hey y'all, welcome back to the Late Night Vision Show. I'm Jason, owner of Outdoor Legacy, one of your co-hosts, and I've got my good buddy and co-host Hans from the Hans ETX YouTube channel. Hey Hans, how are you tonight?
Hey Jason, it's good to be back, man, and I'm going to tell you, we've got a full show this week. We're going to jump right into it because we've got a special guest on the line with us, and I know we're going to want to use all the time we can get, so we're going to go ahead and bring him on. But we've got a special guest, like I said, and he's a humble man, and he won't tell you this, but he's one of the elite coyote hunters in the United States. You've probably seen some of his videos on YouTube on O'Neill Ops, and we've got James O'Neill on the line with us right now. Welcome to the show, James.
Thanks, fellas. I appreciate the kind words. I really do.
Well, I'll tell you, it is a pleasure to have you on the phone. We want to pick your brain. You know, this is a show about night vision hunting. We talk a lot about hog hunting, and we're excited to get you on the line and talk about some coyote hunting. So really, just to begin, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and, you know, when you're not out smoking coyotes, what are you doing out there?
I'm from, everybody that I talk to on the phone, in all honesty, middle of nowhere, man, middle of nowhere, South Dakota. That's put it the easiest way, and that's where I love to be. But I'm a farmer and a rancher. That is what I would consider my profession. And you know, we own and operate about 10,000 acres, about 600 to 700 head of cattle, and I manage an additional ranch. So, you know, the coyote hunting comes hand in hand with our lifestyle.
That is a lot to keep up with that much land and everything, and sounds like you're the real deal out there. So, but you know,
what are you farming? I mean, what kind of crops are you farming up there?
We do kind of a little bit of everything in a way. We're in a kind of a unique situation. If you look at the layout of the land, we're kind of in a meadow, and we're right on the edge of the Ogallala Aquifer on the further north edge. So we've got irrigated pivots, and it allows us, I mean, it's I don't know if I'd consider it arid. This year it was pretty good with rain, but we farm corn. You know, you're driving across the middle of North South Dakota, and you come by some irrigated pivots, and it's 200 plus bushel corn. It's 30,000 population, and it's just kind of a sight to see. But we raise a lot of corn, not a lot, but enough. You know, and then we raise alfalfa so we can put up some hay for the cattle. We'll plant some millet, some cover crop, do some wheat, and a lot of different things.
Well, let me ask you this. Are you first generation, second generation, third generation farmer, rancher? How long have you been?
I would actually classify myself as a fourth generation because my great-grandpa moved here, but he wasn't necessarily on this homestead, but he was very close to it. And my grandpa, you know, kind of moved a couple miles away and established where I am right now. And, you know, that's kind of how I've been here my whole life. I'm 38 years old, and my great-grandpa moved here. My grandpa kind of built this place. Well, he did. And then my dad helped him, and then I kind of helped keep it up and you know, I'm kind of a gopher. He's still the boss. I do what he tells me to, and I put stuff up that needs to be put up and keep everything kept up as good as we need it. That's
kind of funny. It kind of sounds like me with my father-in-law. He says, hey, go out there, that 40 acres out there needs to be mowed. When are you going to get that done?
Yeah.
Do you think there's any chance of this getting passed down to another generation?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's all a guy can hope for. You know, you look, it's a whole completely different, I'd call it a whole different conversation, but I've got 5 kids. They're all 5 years apart. Well, I mean, sorry, 1 year apart. So my oldest is 10, my youngest is 5, and I've got 5 of them. So I've got 2 boys. My oldest is a boy, my youngest is a boy. And there's always hopes. You know, you can't make a kid do what you know, you can't make him do something, but I hope that it's a really good lifestyle, and I really like the way that you know, it teaches kids the responsibility at an early age, because you're doing chores, you learn the value of hard work, and everybody's different, but I liked how I grew up, how my parents raised me, how I got to live every day with my grandparents. It's something that in this day and age just doesn't happen very often. So it's definitely a possibility, absolutely, if my kids want to come back, for sure.
Well, that's awesome. Very good. Well, look, let's jump on in here. Tell us about O'Neill Ops. I mean, I know that, I've watched your YouTube videos. I know you've got a presence on Facebook and some other social media, but you've got some amazing, coyote hunts and predator hunts. You've got a really cool website. Just tell us what O'Neill Ops is and how it came about.
Well, once again, I appreciate the kind words. I really do. We try hard at trying to make a quality production, but I mean, I could talk you guys' ear off about this, but I'll just try to keep it to the point for time's sake, But in the beginning, I played some Division I ball. I was very fortunate to be able to do that, and I knew that I always hunted. I've always shot. I'd say I've had an infatuation with firearms, honestly. And when I got done with college, I knew I was going to invest a lot of my time and a lot of my money into firearms and optics and hunting gear, etc., just because it's a passion. So I figured instead of taking money from the ranch, which I wouldn't do, maybe for a varmint rifle or something, but with the amount of money that I knew I was going to probably spend, I figured, well, why not start a hobby business or a hobby in a sense that could potentially pay for, I don't even really call them toys, but tools that I would use.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so it kind of stems from there, man. I mean, honestly, there's a buddy of mine when I got done that actually hunts and films with us quite a bit, Keith Rissy, and him and I, as soon as I got out of college, we started cutting up water drive irrigations. I bought a gas axe off of eBay for about $500, and I'll tell you what, I got every damn penny out of that thing. And we cut up a water drive irrigation. We won't get to the point, but when you cut it all up into prep steel, which is about 3-foot segments, you'd get about 5 to 6 ton of steel. And that's kind of how I used some side money to start purchasing suppressors. And this was before the guys even really heard what suppressors were or what they were even about. I told you guys earlier, our previous conversation, we were getting a lot of hate because guys didn't know that they were legal to use. So I saved some money on the side, got my FFL, got my SOT, and that's kind of what I would say jump-started us, because we were using suppressors initially, exclusively on everything that we used to hunt with. And it was, in our state, it was 100% legal to do. And then we introduced the camera, and you know how that goes when there's an interest or a curiosity with something that's different. A lot of people pay attention to it, and then it kind of grew from there. That's what I would call kind of the jump starter, the spark that got us going. But the O'Neill Ops was initially, the farming operation, mm-hmm. and the what I say now is we also do a guiding operation, which I haven't pursued. I do a lot. We've actually got about 9 elk killed here already for this depredation season, so we're out all the time doing elk hunts. That's a whole other story as well. But then, as well as the FFL and the SOT, the side business, the O'Neill Ops, with the filming, the reviews, I'd call it the plethora of manufacturers and companies that we're very fortunate to work with now. It's all kind of a collaboration of things.
Well, I'll tell you, the production of the videos, and you and I have talked before a little bit, and kind of your evolution in the editing, and really it was a kind of a self-taught skill, wasn't it? You just kind of got in there and tried to make yourself better at it and produce
Absolutely.
these videos.
That's an awesome point. You see a lot of the commercials now that actually teach, you can go to classes and learn how to film. I firmly believe that almost with anything, trial and error is the best way to learn, because if you screw something up, you usually don't forget, do it again. And that's just kind of how I learned. But we invested, we started off with a little handy cam that wasn't even HD 10, 15 years ago. Well, actually, man, to tell you the truth, I remember when my dad had an old VHS tape, an old VHS camcorder, we recorded some geese and wildlife, and actually got a couple coyote kills with it, but for the life of me, I can't find the records anywhere. But it's been an ongoing process. And then, like you said, I did teach myself to edit, and I've always had kind of an idea of how I'd want to present the footage. And if there's the fellas out there that have seen some of our work, you'll notice that it's a little different. It's we try to make it halfway as entertaining so it doesn't completely bore guys, but at the same time, I'm all about coyote footage. If I could show everybody the amount of footage that we get, I would absolutely do it, but not everybody's going to watch it. It's going to be podunk. A lot of guys aren't going to really be interested in it, but that's what we thrive on, is trying to get as much footage as possible and show guys, bring them along for the ride, because a lot of guys aren't fortunate at all enough to do what we do, so we just kind of try and share it with fellas.
Well, yeah, and I'm going to invite our audience that if they haven't checked out, they need to go check out the videos on YouTube for sure. But Jason, I stepped on your toe.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think what impresses me the most is that every hunter, I shouldn't say every, but most everybody that gets into this, and you start spending money on rifles and, thermal scopes, night vision gear, all this stuff, you go, man, I just wish I could find a way to pay for it. And it's not easy to do, and there's a lot of guys that try, and it just impresses me when somebody gives it as much as you did, because I know it's taken a lot of years. And let's be serious here. You're not getting rich doing this, okay? I mean, I don't want anybody to think you're sitting around, on $100 bills. But the point is, though, you have been successful, but just, in some of our talks and looking, and I know what it, from behind the scenes, you've put a lot of effort into this over a lot of years to get where you're at now, just to where you're at on YouTube. I mean.
Oh yeah. Yeah, let's start this off first. I've got an awesome wife that when I go, I'm gone, and I know a lot of guys that it wouldn't fly. But then again, that kind of goes where I am out here in my location. She knows, we're 30 miles from any town. That's closest town's 1,000 population, and I mean, she when it's go time, it's 4 months out of the year, 5 months out of the year where it's 100%. I'm gone quite a bit, and so I'm very fortunate to have somebody that's understanding, that doesn't get on my case and kind of rag me out for doing what I do, and that's a big part in it. But you're right. It is. There's a big learning curve. There's a lot of stuff that a guy has to learn. You're definitely not getting rich, but in the beginning, you just can't get your hopes down, because you can't get down on yourself. There's way more often than not, guys would laugh at us. I mean, I remember distinctly a company going, everybody with the camera nowadays thinks they're the next best thing. And that is true. I mean, if you think about it, everybody's getting into it, and it's just saturated. But that's also what brings out guys to the top, that, what makes us so different. Maybe it's because of the way we edit stuff. Maybe it's because of the gear that we use. Maybe because it truly is a lifestyle, and we're not just going out there and doing it for a show. It doesn't, and to me, I just sit back, and if you're going out there and you're taking the time, hunting's hunting, have fun, and I agree with it as long as you're doing it legally and respectfully to the animal. And so, it's fun. It's fun, but you're right. You're not getting rich on it, but I will say that by filming and teaching yourself a specific skill set, and editing or specific footage, it opens doors, and that's what's happened to us. It's opened a lot of doors for us to work with companies that we would never be able to work with otherwise.
Well, and from looking at your website, James, it's not just about hunting and filming and all that. It's about a lifestyle. So, I know that you're really, really big into that. And thanks to you now for thanking your wife. Now my wife is going to get on and want to know why I haven't thanked her yet for all the nights that I'm on, which is basically every night. But hey, so our show is, as you know, dedicated to night vision hunting. And, Jason and I, a lot of our audience members are in Texas. We got a lot of them in the South. But tell us a little bit about the laws where you're at, where they were previously, and some of your influence and effect on getting some of those night vision laws changed and passed.
Okay. This is a fun one, fellas. I mean, I'd say I'll give you both numbers, and it's not just myself. There was a lot of guys working on this, and I can name a couple guys in particular, Barclay Crace and Mark Foster, on a couple different bills that we worked with, or just a couple guys that helped me out with a lot of the information that we used to present to the Senate and to the House to get these bills passed. But it is, the law sat before we got anything passed. How it worked out in South Dakota is you could use artificial light or night vision. Thermal was basically not even in the regulation, so you could use it. I mean, in all honesty, if a guy wanted to do it, you probably could have used a 308 or a larger caliber rifle, because there was no rule saying you couldn't do it. But I didn't want to be a guinea pig on anything of that nature. So as the law sat, you could use artificial light or night vision, but the restrictions were you had to use rimfire or shotgun, and you had to be with the landowner. And for us landowners, that's a nice plus, because we don't have to, go out with anybody else. We can just go on our own ground, and you could have a guest. You could have one guest with the landowner.
Right.
So what I wanted to do is, you guys know, shooting pigs and coyotes, how well does a rimfire work on that, or even a shotgun? A lot of times you never get them close enough to actually utilize it.
Right.
So what we did was, all I wanted to do was get a higher velocity caliber, or like your standard varmint Predator cartridge, a 22-250, a 223, a 220 Swift, nothing bigger than a 224 caliber diameter, bullet. And so what we did was, that was the first bill. That was kind of what my baby was. It was Senate Bill 58. It was to allow us the same rules regarding, the night vision usage with the landowner and a guest, but we upped the caliber. And you got to go into these things. A lot of guys, I've had quite a few guys ask me, and if I'm getting too long on this, just, let me know. But there was a lot of questions. Well, how do you get things started? I just started talking to a local representative, and actually Barclay put me in touch with one. For the second bill, I got a sponsor right off the bat, because I've got a local representative that lives like 10 miles from me, and I presented it to him, and he's the one that sponsored it. So it's not as hard as the guy thinks, but the hard part is making yourself go, because there's no substitute for experience with equipment like this. It's easy to say, oh, I'm going to write up a bill, give it to this guy, and then just hopefully it passes. You need to be active. You got to go there. I traveled to Pierre, which is 3 hours from here, 4 or 5 or 6 different times, I can't even remember, and testified in front of the House and testified in front of the Senate. And I don't like getting in front of people, but I made myself do it because it had to be done. You talk about nerve-wracking, and you're talking to guys that just don't really, I don't want to say they don't have a clue, but you have to be on their level. You have to not be cocky. You don't want to be arrogant. You just want to present them with facts and hope they make the most educated decision that they possibly can based on your facts. So what I did was, in South Dakota, as that previous law sat, you could legally take any caliber of rifle, as long as you weren't using a spotlight or artificial light, and hunt at night. So you could go out under a full moon with snow, or a full moon with no snow, and I could use a 50 caliber, as long as I wasn't spotlighting and as long as I wasn't using night vision. So to me, we're making it a lot more safe by utilizing thermal and night vision. You can see better. I don't care. The way I present it is, we use Swarovski glass, and you can't see, even with the best quality of lenses at night, as good as some of this thermal and night vision can. You just can't. But at the same time, they allow us to use a 50 caliber if we want to, shoot at coyotes at night, as long as we're not spotlighting or using thermal. It just, to me, it didn't make sense. So I presented them with a cartridge, a 416. They allowed me to bring it into the Capitol, and I showed them. I said, as the law sits, I can use this at night, as long as I'm not using thermal or night vision. And then I pulled out a little 223 case and said, all I want to do is to be able to use this with thermal and night vision. And I had a couple senators come up to me after and said, I wouldn't have even thought twice about voting yes for this if you wouldn't have, explained it to us. So it means a lot if you guys actually do that, and it's a lot of work. It's really nerve-wracking. I mean, I was really nervous doing it, but like I said, some things you just got to make yourself do, because a lot of people won't. And then so we got that passed. That was tough. That was the tough one, because I won't say much, but we had some really big organizations opposing us, really big, I mean, basically unlimited funding organizations. So we got a lot of perks from fellas that were really impressed when we got it passed because they never thought it could get done. And then, the next bill that we passed was House Bill 1219. And after a year, a guy kind of sits back, and sure, it helps the landowners out a lot by passing Senate Bill 58. But House Bill 1219, a fellow named Mark Foster actually called me and said, hey, weren't you the guy that passed the last bill? Would you help me with this? And so I said, well, what do you want to do? And he wasn't necessarily a landowner, but he wanted to be able to utilize equipment like this. And what you're seeing in South Dakota, and not just here, but a lot of ranches, you get older fellas that are ranching now. A lot of kids aren't coming back. So you get 60-plus-year-old fellas that have problems. And when I mean problems with the animals, with problem animals, coyotes or, what have you, and they would love to have guys come out and help, do some damage control. And a lot of times they can't wait for the state trapper to come in because he might be somewhere else. But, you can't expect fellas like that to stay awake till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning that, when it's sub-zero out, they don't want to do it and they won't do it. Mm-hmm. So it's really tough for guys that aren't landowners to go with landowners, of that nature. So we got it passed so that the landowner could give written consent to, sportsmen, not just South Dakota sportsmen, but guys from out of state that may want to come in and hunt. If the landowner sees them responsible, or they know the land or the layout, or they, if the landowner thinks that they're capable of it, they're probably going to be capable of going without the landowner. So we got it passed to allow, that's what House Bill 1219 was, to allow the landowner to give written consent to people to go. So I can literally step across the fence 50 yards from my house and be on my neighbor's property without him being there with me and shoot a coyote legally now.
Right.
Instead of having him, stay awake and hold our hand while we're doing it.
And the limit on the caliber you said is nothing bigger than a 223.
Nothing. How I worded it was a 224, but I think they did it better at the state. What they did in the wording now, it's nothing larger than a .225 caliber. Right. So that's keeping everything down below your standard 223, 22, 250, 220 Swift, etc.
Right.
Okay, so James, I got a couple questions. I mean, I think all that is just fascinating, and so you'll be able to explain this to me because I think there's going to be a lot of people with kind of this question. So, me as just the average guy thinking, okay, why even have the caliber restriction, and is there a reason that you personally thought that you shouldn't just say unrestricted, because that's pretty much what it is? You go with the 50 BMG and the previous way it was written. Is there some reason to not do that, or is that just a strategy to try to get maybe these legislatures who weren't gun people and they get scared of big calibers? Or I'm just trying to figure out why they're reasoning to keep the smaller caliber restrictions there. What was that about?
No, that's an awesome question. There's basically kind of two answers, if not more. But one, when you're up there, what we've kind of got is a split in the state. Where the Missouri, we call it West River where I live, and then east of the Missouri, we call it East River. And East River is a lot more populated than out west here. And a lot of those guys that are senators and representatives from back there have an issue with, they had an issue with just upping the caliber from a rimfire to this, a round that's only a couple thousandths larger in diameter, but the velocity is kind of what they were, questioning. Well, it's a high power. And so that's primarily one of the reasons why we didn't just go any caliber. When we got done doing the testimony, I had the senator come up and have me do the rebuttal. And the rebuttal is basically if you're the proponent, which we were, you would get the last say after all of the opponents went. You would get the last argument in. So I would sit back and the people that were the opponents after I talked, I would jot down a lot of notes and counter anything that they were saying that I didn't think was really viable or was, in a lot of cases, not factual at all. So what one of their main arguments was, oh, well, with this caliber, with this caliber, and we're not talking any caliber, we're just talking the .224 caliber, high velocity, like a 22-250. Well, they're saying, well, we don't want to be able to have a caliber that shoots further than you can see at night. And that's just flat out ridiculous. You know, I mean,
a 22? Did they ever shot a 22?
I know. I mean, you angle it at the right angle, and you could shoot. That's what I said. I said, you know, if I take the same caliber as I could use at night, and I angle it at the right angle during the day, it can possibly shoot further than you can see during the day.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense. So that's kind of the people that you're working with. And here's a big one. Here's what I learned, and it's politics. It's politics, and I'm not a politician, and I've had a lot of guys say you should maybe do this, and I don't want to do it. But the thing is it's scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. I mean, we had it full bore going through everything with the first bill with like 4 guests and spotlighting included. Well, they made us pull spotlighting, so you can only use night vision and thermal. Spotlighting is still a no-go with those calibers, with the higher caliber. And I'm like, what are we doing here? I was asking him, I'm like, why did you guys amend this? And he goes, well, we had to make some people happy. And so what do? You know, I'm like, well, we have this. It would have went through all of it. Would have just boom done. And so now, and I'm still kind of at. The kicker with the spotlighting is now I literally can't be. We calve out right behind where I'm sitting to the north, 300 yards, about 400 head of cows, older cows, and then right to the south of me, about 300 yards, we calve out about 250 heifers and second year heifers or second calf heifers, and I can't flick a spotlight on while I'm checking cows, and if there's a coyote sitting there, which I've never seen, so don't, take my words out of context, a coyote eating a calf, or a coyote bothering cattle, eating afterbirds, and whip my AR out and dust him. I can't do that under a spotlight. Otherwise, it's a misdemeanor still. So I've either got to plink at him with the 22 or try and get close enough to him with the shotgun. So, there's still rules there regarding the light aspect, but for us, I would call light obsolete now because of the, you guys know that with the thermal and night vision capabilities.
Sure. Right. Do you think, you said with the opposition to the legislation that you were trying to get passed, did you take in examples or did any of the people on the opposing side get a chance to see the difference in night vision and thermal? Did you have examples or did they get to see it? Okay.
Absolutely. What I did was I went out and I got I working with Tyler, I got some very good equipment, took some high quality pictures. I printed them off the night before I went up there and passed them around. And so they, and then what I did was I had a day picture of the same spot, a night picture of the same spot with the PVS 14, which is the night vision device. It was a white phosphor tube, and then I had the same exact location at the same time at night with the thermal device. The M250XR is what I was using. And then I took a picture of all three and said, here it is. And you can see better with the thermal in the middle of the night than you can even see with the day picture.
Right.
And they just blew their minds. I'm like, that spot right there is the dog, and it was 2 miles away, and I'm like, that spot right there is the dog beside my parents' house, and you could literally see it.
Yeah, because I was wondering if they would see that actually hunting with a thermal scope would be safer because you can see more in the direction you're shooting in and making sure that you're, is seeing the difference and making it safer all around for everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's exactly where it came into play about the other question regarding why we just went with that caliber. It's not that and there's always the aspect they were concerned about poaching, which, it's like drunk driving. I say if you can put a law against it, but you're always going to have people that will do it.
Right.
But with the thermal, what you're saying, that's what I took the picture and I said, you can see as far with this thermal as you can during the day, literally, and I'm not lying. You guys know that. We're out here where you can see for 5 miles. I can see for 5 miles at night with a thermal. And, you know, you could see pine trees at 5 miles away. And I'm like, if you guys are really concerned about a caliber that shoots further than you can see, you shouldn't be concerned about up in the caliber restriction with thermal, because you can see further than the round's going to hit in a lot of instances.
Right. Well, see, this is where, and this is why, you know, I'm a typical one of these armchair quarterbacks. I sit around and I look at these laws and I go, you know, these people are stupid, and I know it's because they don't, you know, they don't have the experience that we do in it, and so I understand that. But so if I'm clear on this, you could legally walk out at night with any caliber you wanted and just blindly shoot it out into your pasture across your own property, not shooting at anything, and that would be legal, correct?
Yes, yeah, as long as you didn't have night vision, the thermal or spotlight.
So you can just walk off the back, you know, the backyard and mag dump an AR-10 308 into a direct. I mean, obviously you can't shoot your neighbor's house, but just shooting across your own property as far as you can see, that's fully legal. But if you go in there and you turn on a spotlight, or if you go do one of these other things, it now becomes illegal. That just, to me, I'm like, where's the logic in that?
That's and I think it goes back to the understanding. And I've got one more question on this. You know, the rancher farmer goes into the state legislature. Did you wear shirt and tie, or did you wear jeans, starch jeans, and boots when you went in there to make the presentation?
I wore my Solomon GTX 4 tan boots.
Nice.
And I've got a multi-cam, so it's like a shark skin jacket. And I wore my Titanica ASP pants, my Coyote tan pants.
Wow.
And I wore what I usually wear. You know, I don't wear jeans, I don't wear boots. I wear usually cross trainer shoes or boots, you know, like hunting boots every day, because that's what's comfortable for me. So I didn't get all dressed up, and I just went in there with what I'd call it my daily attire, and just let her have it.
Well, it probably made them realize that, hey, we're talking to somebody that actually knows what they're talking about. That, and with all the stuff that you brought in and the examples. But yeah, that's an interesting topic. I think we could spend the whole show just on that one.
Oh yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, it's mine. I mean, I just think that is so interesting. But I think the most interesting thing, and I know we can close with this and move on, but I just, when I think of South Dakota, I think of guys like you. I think of the you know, wide open spaces, the generations of farming and cattle ranching and all of that. And I don't think of, you know, great big cities. And it's just amazing to me. I just imagine this being your legislature being conservative and like, hey, whatever these farmers and ranchers need, we give it to them. But it sounds like it's not quite that easy.
No, and, you know, and I've always been that way. I've always been, you know, I'd call myself a conservative, libertarian, Republican style of right-wing guy. Right. And the first sponsor of my bill was a Democrat. His name was Jason Fryrick, and I'm like, how does that work? You know, and he was 100% go. He's like, and so you don't, it just, he was a hell of a guy. He was a rancher too, and he's like, it's, I don't know if you call it stereotypical, you know, you put a Democrat or a D beside the name, and you're like, and then there's another fella right here east of me that's he was a senator, I believe, on the Rosebud Reservation, and he was a Democrat too, and he came up to me and said, "You're the night vision guy." He said, "Oh, I'm going to vote for that." I'm like, "Sweet, man, you know,
nice.
Awesome."
Wow.
So it's
cool.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's, like I said, a lot of it I think is how you present it. We spent a lot of time and actually kind of ran some guys down beforehand, a few hours beforehand, and said, "Hey, my name's so-and-so, shook hands. We're here to present this to you." And, I mean, guys, we had a force behind us. We did. We had actually, this is a big, I can't leave these guys out, the largest chapter of Pheasants Forever in the nation, South Dakota. I got a hold of the president, and he said, "Dude, what do you need from us?" And I said, "A letterhead would be nice. If you guys could do a letterhead and sign it, if you guys could get an overwhelming majority of guys in your chapter to say yes to this, and you would allow it. And he said, done. These guys are all for it. So they wrote a letterhead and passed it out to all of the senators and all the House representatives saying, we're the largest chapter in the nation. We would urge your support on the passage of these bills, because South Dakota is a huge pheasant state. I mean, it brings a ton of revenue in to a lot of businesses east of us here, because guys flying in from all over the place to hunt birds. And,
wow.
As well as that goes, you kill more predators, your birds flourish a little bit more.
Right. So let me ask you this. If somebody wants to hunt coyotes like James O'Neill, what kind of gear they need to use? What rifle calibers, what night vision scopes and ammo are you using right now?
Man, I'll tell you what, that would be a whole nother show too, if you want. I mean, that's honestly one of the things where it's kind of differentiates us from a lot of other guys, because with our filming, it's opened the door to work with a lot of guys that a lot of guys aren't capable. Most guys, you see coyote hunters that are, I'd call it the traditional style, and I don't care what you are, I don't care what you use, as long as you're out there having fun, doing it legally, by all means. Hunting's hunting, have fun. But we're always, from the time I was a kid, and I think I mentioned some of this, I've actually got a little bit of a podcast too, I've only done one episode, but from the time I was a kid, I've always modified what I use. Always, man. I'm always tying stuff to this, tying stuff to that, making something here that it's easier for me to use for my application, and I've just applied the same principle to the gear I'm using now. It's just now you get like companies like where I would strap a rifle to my back, like modify a scabbard to a little backpack when I was my son's age, 10 years old, to make it easier for me to go. Now you've got Eberly stock that's got a patent that's got an integrated scabbard into the backpack that carries your rifle center of gravity between your shoulder blades. And companies, we work with those guys. I mean, I could rattle through everything, but we modify all of our stuff. So basically everything that we use, I would classify it as custom. It's not over-the-counter factory. And like I said, I don't want guys to get upset or, a lot of times they call it butthurt over things that we don't use and they do. That's fine. If you guys want to buy a $300 rifle and a $150 scope to go shoot coyotes on the weekend, absolutely, man. Whatever gets you off the couch to go, do it. But we're using barrels that are $1,000 barrels, carbon fiber wrap barrels, and having a guy in Sturgis spin them up and chamber them in match chambers for us, and threading the barrels and, fitting the suppressor to them, and all sorts of things. I mean, if you guys have specific questions about specific gear, by all means, I'll rattle it off.
No, just, the caliber you talked about that you're using, and what's your go-to night vision scope or thermal scope?
The caliber that we're using, I really prefer a 22-250. The 223 is good, but I always tell guys, there's nothing the 223 can do that the 250 can't do better, that ballistic-wise on coyotes. You get that extra velocity, that extra few hundred feet per second more. It just creates hydrostatic shock. You get a lot more lockjaw tip over than coyotes that run. Although I've killed a lot of coyotes with the 223, a lot of them. The 223 the 22-250 just seems to deliver a little bit better results for us. And we hand load for everything. So we're designing or I don't want to say designing, but we're utilizing rounds that cause minimal fur damage. We really do reload and cater towards keeping the fur. So there's we're working with a company out of Pennsylvania, Cutting Edge Bullets. That's kind of a unique round. The guys that shoot over 2 miles, it's called the King of 2 Miles competition. Like I think 80 or 90% of those fellas that shoot in that competition use these bullets. These are the manufacturer's bullets, not the ones that we're shooting out of our 250, but the same manufacturer. And what they are is they're a machined solid bullet. They're a Swiss CNC machined bullet, and it's not a copper jacket. It's not a copper jacket over lead. So there's minimal to zero run out, and it's got a machined hollow point. 6 petals come out. I'm shooting a 60 grain Raptor is what they're called. And the petals frag, but the base of that round keeps going. But it's not a real violent expansion. So you don't get that initial tear or that hole in the fur. I think what I've been telling guys, the last 25 that we took, 125 coyotes that we took this fall, 3 of them had to be sewn up, and we're using those bolts. That's pretty darn good. Yep. And it's hard to change, you know, when you're getting results like that. What was the other question you were asking about?
What thermal you're using or what night vision?
Okay.
First?
Yep. For filming and stuff, I've got my hands on a lot of everything. You know, ATN, Armasight, FLIR, IR Defense, which is now Trijicon stuff, and we've worked with Tyler. A lot of guys know at Ultimate Night Vision, and we run a lot of Trijicon equipment. It's with that 12 micron core and the 640 unit. I mean, it's so tough to beat that optical clarity that you get, and then when we're trying to film, you know, we want what's given us the best image quality possible for the hunts and to present it. And those, I mean, we ran a couple reaps this last year, the M300, the helmet-mounted M300 Patrol for navigation, the M250 XR for long-range scanning, and I don't even call it detection, but identification a lot of times even. And then, of course, the Mark 360 for the, you know, for a lot of the phenomenal footage as well.
Wow. Now, one quick question on that. When you're doing your filming, I mean, I know some of the videos are just amazing out of those Trijicon units. Are you filming with an MDVR, you know, out of the video out port, or are you filming from behind the eyepiece?
I think Tyler told me to keep that classified.
Oh.
No, I'm just joking. No, I get a lot of guys that ask what cameras we're using, what optics we use, and we're filming behind the ocular lens. We're using their PVS adapter. It threads into the PVS style iCup with iPhone 6, I believe, is what we're recording. So then we use their Anchor Power Core with the battery adapter kit, and we're powering the weapon sight itself and the phone via one Anchor Power Core. And I mean, I could tell you guys a story, and I actually worked with, it was 5 or 6, I don't even remember, but worked with ATN a little bit, and you know how that kind of went. There's, you know, I don't know, significantly better. I won't go there, but there was a particular time where my buddy Keith and I, we were on set, and it was, I think it was 20 below when we got in the pickup, negative 19. And when you grabbed the gun, our fingers were freezing to the forend, you know, to the barrel, to the into the optic. They were freezing. And my buddy Keith, he doesn't even care. In the middle of this set, I'm standing up on this with the rifle rested on the top of a fence post, and he gets up and starts walking back to the pickup. He said, "F that noise, I'm done." He said, "I'm froze, I'm out." And my scope went down. It just completely blacked out. And at the time, you know, you'd unscrew the side cap, battery cap, and I'd pull the warm CR123s out of my pocket, replace them, and by the time I got it juiced back up, that coyote's like 20 yards in front, killed him. But then they came out with that battery adapter kit, and it allows us to, I mean, what we're seeing in the sub-zero conditions now is we're able to go out all night long with those battery adapter kits. The thing that'll kill us is in recording is I don't know if those phones have a liquid plasma display or what it is, but that screen will get so slow it won't track when you're moving. So it's really hard, you know, once you get to that point, that's the only downfall. The units are powered in those conditions, but your phone goes down because it gets so cold and you can't record through it.
That is just something us Texas boys don't know anything about.
Exactly.
Well, I want to ask you one more question before we jump off this call, and that is, and I know this is like there's no quick magic bullet, but if you could give the coyote hunters that are out there listening to this podcast, and you could give them one tip that you would say, remember this, do this, try this. Whatever it is, when you're on a set, what would it be? What would be the one thing that's just your quick tip?
Man, I would say wind. You got it. There's a lot of sayings out there. They'll see you, they'll hear you, but as soon as they smell you, man, they're gone. They won't come back. there's a lot of guys that are kind of, I'd call them the weekend guys, which is fine. You get the guys on TV that are telling you what buttons to push, what sounds to play. I mean, a lot of this is the way I look at it, and I tell guys it's like the cold virus every year. You know, it changes, it mutates. So they have to change the vaccine. The same damn thing's happening with coyotes at night. I mean, there was the first year we started using it, you could walk up to them. I felt bad. It was that bad. Now we're stopping. I mean, yeah, I did. And now you stop a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile away, and if you got your lights on, their heads up and they're starting to trot the other way. Same thing with sounds. You guys know that. You know, they get smart, they get educated, they hear one sound once, you shoot, you miss, they ain't coming back. Chances of it coming back are slim to none. And I change it up every year. I really do. I mean, there's certain, I don't tell guys what I use, because the best thing that you can do is to get out there and fail, figure it out for yourself, and have fun. Keep the wind in your face, and, you know, on paper, the wind in your face, the sun at your back, picture perfect, painted on canvas set. A lot of times it don't happen that way, especially when you're bringing the camera along. You got to improvise, but that's get out there, do it. Right. You know, for the new guys, you know, fail a few times and you'll get smarter each time. But then, you know, it's harder for the guys that are out there to actually do their job to kill some of those problem coyotes. So it's nothing against it, but it's a fun game, and just get out there and do it.
All right. Well, I tell you that for everybody listening out there, it's as easy as that. Just keep the wind at your face and sun at your back. You're going to kill 130 cows.
Yes, you. So just try it. You'll get her done.
Yeah, get her done. All right. So, James, for all the listeners out there, where do they need to check you out at?
We've got a website. You guys can check us out. It's OneillOps.com, ONEILLOPS.com. And then if you do a quick Google search, a lot of stuff will pop up on us. And on YouTube is primarily where most of our media is located. It's just search all capitals, no spaces, O'Neill Ops on YouTube, and you'll get a bunch of our videos popping up in front of you. And be sure to subscribe. My goal was to get 100,000 subscribers before Tyler did, but they crushed me on that deal.
Yeah, he's kind of blown up here recently, but I tell you, you got over 40,000 subscribers, and he's got some awesome videos, well produced, well put together. And the B-reel footage or B-roll footage, you're a master at it. So, I mean, that's a lot of people don't appreciate those side cuts and side shots and stuff, but it's a lot of work, but it's well put together.
Well, once again, I appreciate it. It means a lot when guys see that work and you know, give you some praise for it. It means a lot for sure. At least we know it's noticed.
Well, James, thanks so much for being on the show again. I tell you, for Hans and I both, we just want to say thank you. We've really enjoyed it, and I know our listeners have too, and it's been great having you on, and we look forward to having you on again sometime in the future. But for all the listeners, we want to say thanks for listening to this podcast. Be sure to go check out O'Neill Ops and subscribe to the YouTube channel. But if you want to find us, you can find us on all the major social media channels, including YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and you can always leave us an email with your feedback at thelatenightvisionshow@gmail.com, or you can give us a call, leave us a voicemail. That's 903-833-4461. Again, it's 903-833-4461. You can leave that voicemail there. Give us any feedback, suggestions. We will not give your last name or any personal information, but we will possibly play it on the show. So we look forward to hearing from you. So on behalf of Hans and I, thanks for listening to the Late Night Vision Show, and we'll catch you all next week.